More than a decade of woke, degenerate content destroying and deconstructing our heroes and franchises is having one heck of a detrimental impact on society. Young people now claim by 30% that they are in favor of political violence? No, really. Today we'll dive into how Hollywood screwed up an entire generation and how in the world we're gonna fix this thing. It's a sunshiny day, folks. Thank you for coming by yet again to spend more time with us. It's a pleasure, it's an honor, it's a privilege every time we gather together right here on the Pro Channel. Keeping you ahead of the culture curve, it's what we do. Click the like button. We'll do it again and explain why entertainment and destruction of our heroes is pulling our society closer to zero instead of moving forward. After a decade of being told that guys don't matter and they're not the answer, the patriarchy is evil, and we're a virus on the face of the earth, not just guys, but girls too. The oceans are going to rise and the demise of humanity is on the way. It turns out that young people are losing their minds. That's what Yale Youth Poll has discovered in a spring 2026 poll. Folks, you can go read it here. We're going to skip ahead, though, to what really matters, and that is essentially that young people are deciding they might want to wage in with violence, and that's a very scary thing. Charlie Gasparino reposting this from Melissa DeRosa. When 30% of Americans aged 18 to 30 think political violence is acceptable, that's not a partisan issue. It's a societal warning. This comes on the heels of course, what we saw with the Correspondents' Dinner. We'll play this. Here we go. This is the polling information we've got now also from the Kettering Foundation and Gallup Democracy for All Projects. Here's the latest data, and then we'll get into why this matters so much with entertainment. One moment.
Take a look at this 18 to 29, 30%. I say, maybe sometimes it's okay. Most people, most Americans say it's never okay. And that's the message that most Democrats and Republicans are bringing to the table today.
Well, looking at that poll, Brett, this is not a partisan issue. That is a societal warning sign.
All right, let's go back and take a look at the stats we've got here. 18 to 29 right now. Inside the United States, allegedly believe that violence is the answer, 30%. And you can see the decline for everybody older. I don't think that just goes to, people mellow out as they age. Rather, I think this is the result of more than a decade of all entertainment and all of the media telling us that men are the problem, the patriarchy must be taken down, the utopia is just behind the veil. If only we get rid of that darn orange man. He is truly the next incarnate of Adolf, and all that awful stuff that they've been saying. I believe that's how we've gotten to the point now where we are here. And guess what? It turns out that Puck magazine, which covers entertainment, they're also even starting to agree. Everybody is starting to see the same thing, and that this is dangerous. Puck, P-U-C-K, Matthew Bellany says, an American sickness. A decade ago, there was a perception that political violence came mostly from right-wing extremists. Now that U.S. politics have degraded further and social media drawn battle lines have hardened, more Americans are putting the blame on the far left. This is by Peter Hamby, hosted over there on Matt Bellany's website. And it goes on to talk about the Correspondents' Dinner and just how dangerous rhetoric has gotten, especially out of the Hollywood elites, and how they need to give it a break because we're getting into a place now. This is attempt number 3. Problems are going to happen. Kato, what do you think about this idea that we've been in a situation for 10 to 15 to 20 years of nothing but dystopian, the world sucks, humanity sucks, we gotta reduce the population, the orange man is evil, the oceans are gonna rise, everybody's trying to hold you back, hold you down. Kato, is this the reaction, the response? Is this what we would expect to see out of young people now? They believe it, they absorbed it, and now they're ready to take unfortunate action.
If that's all you know, that's all you know, right? Like, if all you see is violence and, man bad, they're going to put us in camps, we're not going to be able to afford a house, or we're not going to be able to do all this stuff. That's all you know, because it's been in your media. Like, contrary to popular belief, pop culture is culture, right? Like, that's what all the people know, the young people, whether it be Instagram, TikTok, anime, movies, TV shows, games, books, comics, all that stuff influences the culture. So if they see the same thing over and over and over again, that's what they're going to believe. So if their favorite celebrity is going, hey, Donald Trump is going to round you up if you believe a certain thing and they're going to kill you and they're going to do all this stuff. And you see that year after year after year after year. That's all you know. So if you're raised in that, then that's what you're going to believe. So of course, all these people are thinking, oh, violence is the answer, because they think that the opposition is trying to kill them. And that's just a reaction. That's just a regular human reaction. So it makes a lot of sense, especially with this garbage movie, dude. Like I can't stand this movie. This is a clear example of what I'm talking about. This whole movie is exactly that.
Right, it's dreaming about harming your political opponents, and it won Best Picture, Kata. This is what I'm talking about. You're on the same page with me. This is the glorification. This is the daydreaming of getting to go out there and purging your political opponents in America, and they gave it Best Picture in Hollywood.
Yeah, I absolutely hate this movie, but they were praised it as it's some kind of triumph, and all this movie is an example of how far down we have gone as a society. If you can make this movie, which is, hey, it's okay to kill people who disagree with you politically, and then win Best Picture, there is a problem with that. And you want to know why it's so much of a problem? Imagine if this was the reverse. Imagine this wasn't like a far left movie. This was a far right movie. And they were saying it's okay to off your political opponents if you don't agree with them.
I can't even imagine.
The French Revolution people, they were like the American nationalists, and instead of going against like Mexicans, they were going against gay people. They would call that movie all kind of like racist and terrible and all kind of things.
There'd be legislation to shut down entertainment,
right? Well, right, I mean, and they would have to stop the funding from the Southern Poverty Law Center as well.
That's it.
Well, then buckle up, guys, because the Savant is just around the corner.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
More of that.
Marvin, tell the folks what you're referencing. Not everybody knows.
The Savant is the Jessica Chastain Apple TV series in which she is an agent who investigates and infiltrates right-wing extremist groups online.
Yeah.
So it's going to be just more of it. Just more. They're evil. They're evil. They're evil. They have to be stopped by any means necessary. And then it's going to speak to the people that, you know, are off balance. And this is how things like 3 attempts on the president's life happens. This is how things like this is the reason why things like Charlie Kirk happens. You know, we're seeing it over and over and over again, and it's only going to get worse because there is absolutely no call from within the House to dial the temperature down.
Yep.
Right, and that is the problem. And you have to have that. There must be an off ramp, and so far, no off ramp exists. Culture, I'm going to give this to you because I know that you can deftly navigate the YouTube landscape and what we can say and what we can't say. Culture, we're also finding out that the Southern Poverty Law Center allegedly could not find enough hatred and evil in the world and in the United States, and so instead, they funded evil and hatred in the United States. They were paying for these organizations to exist. And now that that's been brought out, and now that the DOJ has come in and the FBI has come in, and now that justice may be served to the Southern Poverty Law Center, it turns out that the legacy media, the news media, CNN, MS Now, CBS News, ABC News, all of them, they don't want to cover it. This is again from Fox News, but it says the Southern Poverty Law Center has been a favored elitist media source for decades to warn constantly of a dangerous far-right threat to America from some of the baddies you can see there. It says they wanted you to believe that 23 baddies meeting in State Park in Kentucky had national significance. All that fell apart this week because essentially now we know they may have been funding those people to meet. Like they would have had to have gotten a job if not for the Southern Poverty Law Center paying them to do this kind of stuff. But it says even the paper of record, the New York Times, ran a front page story that laid out all the conservative complaints about the group in recent years, but didn't get into their allegedly fraudulent payments. It lists out all of the various networks that refused to connect this whatsoever. You know, the only one, Culture, if you can believe it, was PBS. And PBS put it out there in a way to say that, well, actually, you know, this is just Trump trying to drum up support. So, Culture, what do you think about this this situation where we've been manufacturing inside the United States division, and we're getting the ramifications of that now?
Well, I think if you don't have enough hate, you have to pay for hate. So, and I think that the problem is the funding. And again, these are supposed to be people that are supposed to be fighting on the right side of the equation, not creating more problems. And I think that's the biggest problem is the hypocrisy. It's one of the things I'm focused on, whether it be in media or in lawfare or anything else that's going on in our world right now. And look, I mean, hate groups aside, this isn't new. It's not any farther beyond what Marv was talking about with the Savant or anything else. We've had a lot of this type of targeting and targets placed on people's backs for a long period of time. I'm not surprised because this is something that has been happening for a long time, and it's not just with SLPC. Or SPLC or whatever they referred to as, but I'm just not surprised. And look, the suggestions that to wave aside this scrutiny of this particular group and what they were doing, is more calls for legitimacy that I also think is ridiculous. Trying to argue from a position of authority. And, if you don't think that, because the media's immediately pivoted to, law enforcement uses informants all the time.
Well, let me go to Kata for the final word on this one. Kata, something we were talking about, and Coulter's exactly right, but something that came up during the review of the Michael movie really has struck a chord with me. And we were thinking about back in the 80s, who were the top artists? Who were the top athletes? Who were people, really following and loving as a society? And that was 40 years ago. The top musical artist was Michael Jackson. Top athlete was Michael Jordan. And people were loving the Michael Jordan versus Larry Bird competition in the NBA. You had, later in the 80s and into the 90s, who was the top female vocalist? It was Whitney Houston. And what was the top TV show in the 80s? Bill Cosby, The Bill Cosby Show. We were talking about this, and it feels like, Kata, we were on the cusp of having a very healthy society, one that was based on ideals rather than traditional ethnicity that does define almost every nation on the planet Earth. But the United States has become this melting pot in the 80s where we had almost pulled it off. People had set aside their differences based on skin color and race and background, and we're just like, you know what? We're going to love each other like brother and sister. Now, I'm not suggesting everything's been fine or perfect. But it feels like, Kata, there's been a 40-year war to try to make people hate each other. And I'm sick of it.
I mean, you could literally see the decline, like from what you're saying, like even in the 90s, it was still like that. It was like nobody really cared. And even in the early 2000s, like where I was growing up, most of it was really just against like Islamic people because of 9/11 stuff like that. But we were at like a heightened state in that moment, and like a few years after that, it kind of died down, and you could see the literal decline as soon as Obama got into office. It said, pew, all that relationship just went out the window. There was nothing but tension.
Kata, is that because people saw Obama in sort of a messianic way? They saw him as a quasi-religious figure, and therefore, if anybody was not politically aligned with Obama, they were then part of like being against your religion almost.
Yeah, that's how he went in his campaign. That's how it was. It was like, if you're not voting for him, it's because you're racist, and then that right there sparked the whole thing up all over again. And it's just been going on and on and on since then, where it's like, oh, if you don't agree with this person because they're black, you're racist. But it's like, it was never like that. Like you're saying, all the stuff that was in the 80s. Think about some of the movies from the 90s, all the buddy cop movies that you have that was like black dude, white dude, black dude, Asian dude. Nobody cared about that stuff. It's like, oh, it's just cool entertainment. Oh, we have nice music. Oh, we have good games that are coming out, or comic books and stuff like that. Keith David was all over the place. It's like, nobody cared about that stuff, and they try to make it seem like people actually do care. Like, I'm black, I'm from the South. If somebody's racist, you're not going to have interactions with them. You want to know why? Because they're racist.
Right.
They're not going to be around you. They're not going to want to be around you. They're going to be like, all right, cool. I see this black dude. I'm going to go the other way. That's how it is. Like, the supply for racism does not, meet the demand, basically.
And everybody, Kata, everybody, when you find out that somebody's like that, everybody thinks they suck, right? Like everybody's like, oh, that dude doesn't like people because of their skin color. He sucks, man. The dude just sucks.
I can tell you, I've met actual racist people that were more nice than the people who pretend to not be racist. Like, it's absolutely insane to me.
Right, the nannies.
When I did my review of Michael, one of the things that I talked about that I appreciated about the film was that it didn't go into the racial stuff outside of one scene. And I made the point that, like, in the 80s and 90s, I think Michael Jackson, Family Matters, The Cosby Show, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like Living Color, a lot of these pop culture shows that normalized, watching and being close to people of different races. I think it all just kind of made us not care anymore. So like that is the power of pop culture, I think. And we're seeing the inverse of that now with the power of pop culture being used to radicalize people into violence. Whereas I think back in the 80s and 90s, we were taught through Carl Winslow, Heathcliff Huxtable, and Uncle Phil that we were all the same, and that we didn't even think about it.
All right, think about this for a minute. I've talked. It gives me chills sometimes to talk about this because I've spoken with some people who were involved in the show, and it makes me so happy that they know this concept. I think about how many poor white kids, how many poor white boys all across the country. How many of those boys had no father, and they watched Family Matters, and they saw a good father in Carl Winslow, played by Reginald Vell Johnson? How many of them watched Reggie Vell Johnson, and they picked up the idea that there are good dads out there, and the skin color didn't matter? Little boys with no dad, poverty-stricken little white boys, no dad, who saw Carl Winslow and said, I want to be like him when I have a kid. What a difference we were living in. And we struck all that down, and here's the result of it. We need to stop, and we need to start being kind to one another and put politics back where it belongs, not where it's metastasized into everything we do all the time.
Well, so we had shows like you said, Family Matters, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, all those shows that brought us together, and then somewhere in the late aughts, it switched, and now all of a sudden we have shows like The Proud Family, and things that are forming racial divides and are pointing to things like this. To the point where when Family Matters would do an episode about racism, it would actually hit. Because but now like these, because they would do it once in a blue moon, but these other shows, it's all the show's about.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again. And that's, I think, why and pop culture has such an effect on people and how they interact with one another and what they believe. And that's why you're seeing this 18 to 29, 30% of people accepting political violence. It's absolutely insane. And it's because of things like, one battle after another, or it'll be like The Savant, if anybody actually watches it. All of this stuff is causing the radicalization, and Jimmy Kimmel is causing radicalization every single night. Bruce Springsteen is causing radicalization with people that can afford his $2,900 concert tickets.
He's a working man, Marv. He's a working man. Okay.
Yeah.
Leave the boss alone. And it is time to put a bow on it, for this one, folks, is a gift to everybody who wants to know exactly what's going on in the entertainment industry, and we are so joyful that you were there to receive it. We hope that you had a great time. An attitude of gratitude on this channel every single time you decide to spend time with us. As we get ready to say goodbye, we only ask a few simple things. Click that like button, share, subscribe, click it, and stick it to those algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, so waste not yours. And folks, as you get ready to head out that door, do you have a place on social media that you love to share this sort of thing? Hey, you can make this YouTube video sing by putting it out there for your friends, your family, and for those weirdos who just won't leave you alone. Folks, until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.